Two of the most infamous enemies Godzilla's faced in recent times. Well, I say recent, but I basically mean post-Heisei. In one corner, the terror of the cosmos, Keizer Ghidorah. In the other, the great white whale of monsters, Shimo. Who would win in a fight to the death? Let's find out. Well, currently MonsterVerse King Ghidorah vs. Shimo has currently been agreed on by the fandom, except, the the correct people. Oops, I let that out. I figure it'd be a little more fun to talk about Keizer, since Shimo and Keizer kinda share the trait of being big, bulking beam spammers. Think about it. Shimo actually used very few physical attacks in her fight with Godzilla and Kong, mostly just using her Frostbite Blast. And Keizer barely uses any physical moves against Final Wars Godzilla. Only a kick, a step, and a bite. Any other exchange was just him using his gravity beams. Starting with the Emperor of the Universe. In his suppressed state called Monster X, he already had power and speed exceeding that of the Godzilla of Final Wars, able to best him in hand-to-hand combat and even shrug off a blast of his atomic breath. Still, we have some interesting statements and feats that place Final Wars at least a planet buster, even in his base form. Furthermore, it's mentioned that he is the most powerful thing on the planet, which would likely include humanity's arsenal, which was mentioned able to blow up this large planetoid. Furthermore, official statements also say that Keizer Ghidorah can destroy entire planets, but there is something more interesting there that we'll touch up on later. But first, to dispel the notion that Keizer scales above other versions of Ghidorah, thus would have stellar, 4D, or whatever else sort of scaling, Final Wars exists within its own timeline, completely separated from the rest of the Godzilla series. Not even the original Godzilla, which is sort of referenced in the film, is canon to it. Rather, it has its own timeline with its own creatures, including its own versions of Ghidorah. Because of this, Keizer being the strongest Ghidorah doesn't necessarily mean anything. On that note, he's also more powerful than the likes of Gigan, who raised 2 entire continents in a short span of time. And even just his shell form crashing towards the Earth while being actively stopped by Godzilla still generated at least multi-continental levels of power. As for his speed, as mentioned, Monster X was superior to Godzilla in terms of hand-to-hand speed, and could even fire his beams faster than him as well. This version of Godzilla was able to react to Monster X's meteor, which was moving at about 67% the speed of light, and in fact, he saw it as fairly slow. Based on this, Final Wars is at least relativistic, more than likely faster than the speed of light, and Keizer Ghidorah could actually blitz him with his gravity beams. This is the type of shit you see in an anime. He fired his beam, then Keizer walked towards him, charged up, and fired his own beams before engaging in a clash with him. A single hit from Keizer Ghidorah also devastated Final Wars, rendering him unable to fight back. Funnily enough, he actually hit him so hard he started making Showa pain sound effects. He hit him with Generation of Pain. It's mentioned that he's a pretty sadistic creature, so he actually may have been toying with Godzilla at this point, as a gravity beam from him is actually able to make the powered up Godzilla, called Heavenly Godzilla, flinch a little bit. It seems to cause a bit of a mark. So for our final stats, we have at least planetary, if not much higher, and speed being at least faster than the speed of light in terms of attack speed. His combat speed is yet to be tested in melee, since he doesn't really engage in hand-to-hand combat much, preferring to bully his opponents from a distance, and then move in when they're weakened. However, one statement does give Keizer Ghidorah a much higher interpretation. It's mentioned on Toho's current website that Keizer Ghidorah has cosmic classes of firepower. This is the sort of statements you only see with past kaiju that are able to affect entire stars. So it's arguable that Keizer Ghidorah actually has more of a stellar tier of power. However, this is only one statement, and it is technically not proof. It's more of an assumption. But let's move on to his opponent. Shimo, introduced in Godzilla Kong the New Empire, is Godzilla's current strongest rival. There are statements that put her at least comparable to Ghidorah. There are some implications she's superior, and others that she's inferior. but at the very least, these monsters should be comparable in power. Ghidorah was stated able to raise the entire surface of the planet and leave nothing left. At the very least, this is a multi-continental feat. However, given the subatomic properties of these creatures, it could actually be much higher. And even if you don't accept that sort of scaling, by merely standing there, Ghidorah creates a Category 6 hypercane the size of Brazil, and can fly with it at hypersonic speeds. This means that Ghidorah's body strength is at least in a multi-continental degree, if not even well into moon or planetary. This makes sense, since he's stronger than Godzilla in his base form, the same Godzilla who, while weakened in GVK and not really trying very hard, could vaporize a hole well into the core of the Earth, a feat that outputs multi-continental to even small planetary levels of energy. Shimo fought a more powerful version of Godzilla in the past, and seemed to have stalemated his atomic breath. This is noteworthy because the atomic breath is stated to be nature's most powerful weapon, with the novel author even going out to say that this may include things out in the physical universe. The non-canon Monarch show also likens the energy in the Hollow Earth to powerful gamma rays from pulsars, that being very energetic stars, and supermassive black holes. We can compare Godzilla's atomic breath to a mini gamma ray burst. Doing so would mean that the blast has large planetary to even dwarf star levels of attack potency, and Shimo could match it before being defeated by Godzilla. Even still, she's an opponent so powerful that Godzilla wanted to have Mothra help him fight her, and with no sign of Mothra, he actually chose to power himself up, getting a 2 times energy boost, and getting the ability to use possibly up to 20 times his previous level of power. This seems a bit questionable though, because while she was overpowering base evolved Godzilla, after he supercharged, he overpowered her, but didn't seem to really be by that much. If it was a 10 times difference, you'd think it'd be more considerable. But if we do attribute that, then that means that Shimo would have at the very least large planetary to dwarf star levels of attack potency and durability. She is weaker than supercharged evolved Godzilla, or else I'll just call him now Spiral Pink, as it is stated he is the strongest creature on Earth. Shimo, obviously, being a creature on Earth, but she was still able to perform somewhat well against him and fight back. As mentioned in the novel, she was able to still put up a performance, and she took little damage from the attacks. As for her own speed, her beam is likened to Godzilla's atomic breath, a beam of Cherenkov radiation, which fires at 75% the speed of light. It's also called a laser a few times, lasers being the speed of light, but it's slower than Mechagodzilla's beam, which is, a beam of protons, and also considered a laser. So who would win between these two ultimate quadrupedal enemies? I think the answer is pretty simple. It's Shimo. While Keizer Ghidorah has a great attack speed advantage, and his anti-gravity beams are more than capable of tossing Shimo around, given that they sent Final Wars Godzilla flying and up into the air, the amount of blunt force trauma he would need to deliver to someone as durable as Shimo in order to subdue them is too high to really ignore. He'd have to beat on her for a long time in order to wear her down. While he could absorb her energy, he tends to do this after he's already subdued the opponent. With someone as durable as Shimo, that's not going to be for a while. She can also attack while being attacked, and she immediately fired her frostbite beam after he just blasted her in the neck, so she can counter very quickly even while being assaulted. As for Shimo, while she's much slower, and you could argue that maybe in a beam clash Keizer would win if you're generous, one hit and he's done. The Absolute Zero bypasses durability, and was such a powerful ability that Godzilla specifically hardcored most of his evolution to countering it. It also sealed King Ghidorah, an alien who survived the depths of space, and was just fine in the freezing cold of the Antarctic. She can also drop so much ice on you that it's just immobilizing. She froze all of Greenland in a matter of minutes at least, possibly hours. She stated able to destroy the whole world with ice, and she caused an ice age directly on Ghidorah's face, affecting the entire planet. It'd take a while for Shimo to land her killing blow, but Keizer is now durable enough to withstand the frostbite beam. Shimo wins, mid difficulty.